Good morning, nuts and bolts listeners, and welcome to this Friday's broadcast, which is about what are ideal management or leadership coaching topics. Very often, I'm asked the question, is this a coachable leadership or management topic? Is this something we can coach on? And hence I decided to today focus the topic on this. So last week we explored what is coaching, professional leadership coaching. We looked at the three specific words, and today we're going to look at the topics. When choosing to go into coaching, I think there are just 5 things that one always has to consider before engaging into coaching, regardless if it's leadership coaching, life coaching, or any type of coaching. And the one is that you need to be or have the desire to really change, because coaching aims to create change. And if you do not have the desire to really create that change, to make that shift, coaching is not going to be successful for you. You will not make the progress that you want to, and you will be very disappointed. The coach will not be able to shift you forward if there is no requirement or desire to change. The second one is, if you choose to go into coaching, it involves you, and primarily you, because you want to change and you want to grow and develop. So there are no other third parties, as we would call them, involved. We cannot coach or change somebody who is not in the room. So it's always about you. And coaching is about finding your authentic solution, really discovering what works for you. And that's where a bit of the time gets spent. Because if you wanted to increase your productivity or time management, you can easily go to Google and find different techniques that people put out there. You can read a lot of self-help books and do all of that. But how do you know this is working for you authentically? Because we are all very different. We process information differently. We have different filters. So what works for the one person doesn't work for the other. Another point is that if you engage in coaching, the topic has to be meaningful to you. It really has to matter to you, which often means that the topic needs to become and be quite current. It can't be a topic that is either not existent, that's like a hypothetical situation. So if I have a team, hypothetically, how would I motivate it? That coaching topic just really does not become very granular. You can't work with it. So we need current topics to be working with them. They need to mean a lot for you. You'd want to have change in them, and you want to create a shift that is authentic to you. So that's just one item to be said about coaching. Let's look at coaching topics for leaders or managers. Most leaders or managers who come to coaching are focusing on topics that involve a lot of interpersonal concepts. So it's either about managing their team, that they want to enhance that relationship through, for example, things like better communication with their team, providing candid conversations with their teams, so that is how to give feedback that is absolutely beneficial. It's about how to manage conflict with your team, how to perhaps be not so reactive to your team. And a very common one is how to delegate, how to really delegate and trust your team to let go. So there is that relationship very often between the leader and the team. And then you get topics that really involve the leader per se. And those are items such as perhaps learning to be assertive, to really learn to say no in a situation, to find your voice, because sometimes leaders do not feel they have a voice, so they stay very silent or do not participate as actively as they should. A very, very common one is also time management, or what we know it as now work-life balance, of how do I actually manage that. And then very personal ones would be, how do I develop self-confidence? Because as the surprise might be, many leaders do not actually feel very confident in their roles, but they've managed to mask it well enough that to the outside world they appear confident, but internally they are not very confident. They feel they have this imposter syndrome of they are not good enough and somebody's going to catch out that they actually do not have the knowledge. So these are normal or examples of leadership topics that we would coach at. So there is no such thing as a taboo or non-leadership topic. If it matters to the leader, if it is current, if they want to create change or shift in it, and they have current situations, then those become leadership topics. You would only not coach on topics that are not leadership related. For examples, home relationships or personal relationships, or finding their life meaning or their life purpose. So those would be topics that would filter more into life coaching and not management and leadership coaching. Very often the topics chosen by the leader are a representation of where they are in their career. So a newly appointed leader will grapple a lot with how to manage their team, how they come across, how they are accepted by the team, how they can be positively influential to the team, how they can build positive relationships, especially if they are young leaders and they have a diverse team of different cultures and ages and experience. So that becomes, they'll have their very own unique topics. Then you'll have more middle management leaders who have been in the field perhaps for a longer time. They might have different topics that they've had perhaps years of experience, haven't gotten used to their style of leading, now have a more dynamic team or a multicultural team or a geographically dispersed team, and they have to bring in multiculturalism, emotional intelligence, communication styles, personalities. So they'll focus on very different things. And then you might get the seasoned leader, if I can call them that, who starts hitting a totally different challenge in their lives, where they are either have the opportunity to expand in their career, so go up a level in their organization, and have got an opportunity to take it up to a hierarchical level, and they are contemplating if they really want to do that, or what the pros and cons of that are. So they will use the leadership coaching topics more on brainstorming and really asking themselves if this is something they want to do. Sometimes there are sacrifices that go with it. They might have to relocate to another country, which involves their families and so on. So they might have totally different leadership topics. And then you have leaders who have also been in their roles for 20, 25 years and start asking themselves, how do I actually reinvent myself? Because they just feel they have done this for so long. And how do I actually reinvent myself, which is very important to do as a leader, of how do I reinvent myself. And sometimes the leaders then also come to a crossroads in their journey to say, I am not sure if I actually want to carry on in this position for a while, and maybe I actually want to change total directions, change organizations, and go from a totally different career. So those topics all are leadership topics. Hence, I really cannot say to you there are 10 leadership topics which are the most common ones. It really depends on the level of the leader, what matters to them, what stage they are in their leadership, what's happening in their lives. Hence, every leader has their own topics. What is also important to perhaps state on why leadership coaching is so different to perhaps leadership training is that leadership coaching is very personalized. And in leadership training, you have a group of leaders who are being trained, or you impart knowledge or information to them on a very specific topic where the facilitator has the most knowledge and experience and imparts that to the leaders with the hope that they take on this information and then try and practice it or experience it within their work settings. Sometimes there are follow-up sessions to see how they are going and those things. What makes coaching different is that you're focusing on one individual only. Yes, you get group coaching, but very often on a leadership coaching basis, it's the individual, the leader, and the coach. So the leader receives absolutely individual attention, and the focus is solely on what their challenges and where they want to grow. So it's very tailor-made to them and how they perceive the world and where they get stuck on becomes the primary focus. And very often in leadership coaching, the client brings real case studies or examples of what is happening, and those are then literally explored, because therein is the nugget of where the client is getting stuck, what's coming up for them, which in a group setting isn't necessarily that valuable. Then once we have found perhaps a solution, which could be and most often is very focused on obstacles that are related to personality styles, belief systems, values, memories, decisions. Those are often the things that hold a person back. And if you do that in a training environment, you will not be able to honestly accommodate everybody. So in a coaching session, you can just hone in on that individual and dig deeper on what is the value that's holding them back here, or what is the belief system that they have around conflict management or assertiveness. And once we can get to the nugget of that, you can shift that person forward. But that you can only do on an individual basis. Hence, leadership coaching is very unique and tailor-made to the individual, and still remains the most efficient, cost-effective way of really growing individuals, because, as I say, it's so personalized and tailor-made to the individual versus the group. And even if you look at the topics that leaders often bring to their coaching sessions, the ones we perhaps explored a few minutes ago, they very often are parallel reflections of topics that they have in their personal lives. So if they're going to, for example, struggle with being assertive in their work environment, they will have the same within their personal lives. They might not speak up as much as they wanted to, be that in their private relationships, be that with their families, or be that with their friends. If they are not comfortable to engage with conflict, the same will happen in their personal lives and so. So what we very often do is we take the environment that the leader feels the most comfortable with. And although the topic is, for example, how to embrace conflict or how to manage conflict more proactively that is authentic to you, the leader might decide to take a safer environment and perhaps explore it in a personal setting and obtain feedback from there on how our discussion went in a safer environment, such as the home environment or family or friends, before they go to the work environment. That is one option that they often do. But the whole aim with the leadership coaching topics is that the leader chooses the topic, we explore it, we work out where the leader is stuck on the topic, and it really doesn't matter. Everybody will have their own, as I say, it's a belief, it's a value, it's fear, it's limiting beliefs that we have. There are multiple factors, but often we're not aware of them. And once we find a way of moving around it, then the leader goes out and experiments with that during the coaching period, whatever that is, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and tries to integrate what we discuss, and then comes back in the next coaching session and provides feedback that they are comfortable with to share what happened. The emphasis is not really on the process of did you do your homework, because that is not where coaching aims to go, and that would create a different relationship, which is not what coaching does. What is interesting for both the coach and the client is how was the process for you? What worked when you engaged in managing conflict differently? What worked and what did not work? So that we can mold this even more. And that's where the authenticity comes in, that it becomes authentic for the client, because that is how they actually create the change, and then repeating it over a longer period until it becomes a bit natural for them. And it's the going out, practicing it, providing the feedback, exploring the feedback, discussing the feedback, analyzing it, brainstorming it, is where the accountability comes in. And that is also a key component on why leadership coaching is more beneficial than very often training, because you know you're going to meet your coach in a week or 2 weeks' time, and they're going to ask you or look at you and say, based on where you wanted to go with this topic, how have you stacked up against it? So when it comes to looking at what are ideal topics, leadership topics, you can really look at your own topics, your own life, and choose topics that are relevant to you. And as I say, they are often a replication. And it doesn't matter if you are a business owner, a solo entrepreneur, or a leader, a manager, a supervisor. The minute you lead or interact or engage with people, you will have leadership topics. They will be of importance to you. And hence, coaching would be ideal for anybody who interacts with people. And on that note, I wanted to leave it with you, because coaching, there is no such thing as a taboo coaching topic, as I say. Very often, as I said in the beginning, leaders ask me, is this a coachable topic? And the answer is always, if it matters to you and you will benefit from changing it and you really want to change it, then the answer is yes. If it's no, then we will not really make progress and move forward in it. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to this Friday's version of the nuts and bolts of leadership. And we will be back next week, Friday, continuing with our coaching topic. And we will then focus on the process of coaching and how to choose a coach is perhaps the next 2 topics that are important, because coaching is a very personalized process and you need to know what the process is as well as how to choose your ideal coach. Have an amazing weekend. Look after yourself and take good care. Bye-bye.